Yeah, every day they watch the movie Major League and just like jerk off to it. Every time Charlie Sheen gets that last strikeout, it's like, oh, 99! Oh, 101! Oh!
Wow. I would not have thought Eli was number 2.
Yeah, he's that bad at throwing the wrong pass at the wrong time.
No, I thought he was number 1.
Nice. Very nice. Ryan Fitzpatrick. God damn it, I can't say it right. It's tied my tongue. Ryan Fitzpatrick. I've got to say it now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Left Field Sports Lounge, the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Oh, wait, wrong show. So, yeah, the Left Field Sports Lounge, I'm Chris Lewis, along with Perry Lewis and Eric Tolbert, and just for everybody listening out there, we're now on YouTube and SoundCloud, so there's 2 other ways that you can find our shows. Whatever is easiest for you. If you got iTunes, make sure you subscribe. That's the easiest way to get our new episodes that come out every week. Also, any feedback you have for us whatsoever, make sure to send it to leftfieldsportslounge@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. So moving on to this week's topics. The first question I have to ask you guys is, how about them Bulldogs, huh?
That's right, man. I'm loving it.
That's right. In case you've been living under a rock all week, Mississippi State versus LSU was this past Saturday, and State scored a victory in Death Valley for the first time since 1991. And come to find out, that's about 2 years before Dak Prescott was even born. So the game's final score was 34-29. So what are you guys' thoughts on this game?
I'll let you take it, Perry.
Man. You go for
it. The whole time. All right, my honest to God thoughts on this game were that we went into a brand new LSU stadium with a record-setting crowd, and we shut them motherfuckers down for 3 quarters. Now, in usual State fashion, unfortunately, they made it interesting for us. They made it awful for us, to where at the very end, LSU could have won. But that's why I feel like this season's different. What did they do? Did they buckle? No. They took a fumble, returned for a touchdown, getting LSU back in the game, and they made a statement by not letting them come back. Even after dominating for 3 quarters, that would have been the thing that broke any other Mississippi State team's back in 10 years. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I think Mullen could have done better. Get out of the shotgun. Like at that point, look, just get under center. Why put in a different center? And why let a guy who hadn't played all game sit there and do your shotgun formation in one of the most, mind-rattling situations ever? I mean, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with that because, at that point, you're wanting to control the clock, just run everything down. There was only 3 minutes left to go in the game. You're up by 3 scores. Hell, it took this incredible comeback for them to actually have a chance, and they pretty damn near had it. If there was, an extra 30 seconds on the clock, I actually think they would have done it. Because Mississippi State, I love them. They get after the quarterback, probably as good as anybody in the SEC right now. However, their corners, their secondary is god-awful. They can't cover anybody. Now, they can tackle. They have the sure hand tackle, but they cannot cover anybody. The kid from UAB threw all over him, for God's sake. That's the biggest thing that I'm worried about. As far as them calling it an upset, I think LSU was overrated to begin with. They got a new quarterback, new running back. There's so many different things there. They have so many different pieces, new pieces. It was a statement win. It was a great win. I personally wouldn't call it an upset. I mean, I think the vast majority of Starville's looks at it the same way. However, that comeback there at the end, I actually think that's a good thing for them instead of them, riding that high cloud going into the bye week and with the A&M coming in. Now Mullen has something to drill into them. They have something to work with. So, I mean, I think that last spurt at the end might have been a good thing for him.
Yeah, now Mullen stayed to his tried and true method of not going for the win, but trying not to lose towards the end by putting his backups in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, you might want to put your backups in there to get some experience or whatnot, but this was a huge, huge opportunity for State to win, and if any team can come back, it could be LSU. I mean, last year it was Auburn that would come back at the last few seconds and win games they shouldn't have won. LSU very well could have done the same thing, and they almost did. But if I was down there, I would not have pulled my starters. I would have made sure that I won that game. Keep my guys in it and win it. But, hey, that's a judgment call. That's why he's the coach and I'm not. But the thing about LSU, though, is what was touted mostly about them is their defense. Their offense, was kind of questionable, but their defense has looked good on paper all season, and that was one of the reasons why they were ranked so high. Do you think LSU's defense is actually that good, or is State's offense that bruising, that offensive line?
Go ahead.
I will actually give credit to the offensive line. I will also say that LSU's defensive front is not what it has been. I mean, I'll tell you right now, the best two defensive fronts in the SEC, especially the SEC West, are Ole Miss and State. And that statement had been made in, fucking 40 years. But, I mean, LSU is nothing but basically freshmen and sophomores. They've got the recruits just like they always have. They just have no leadership. They lost a lot last year. I mean, if there was a time to beat them, it was this year.
Mm-hmm. Same way with Alabama.
Yep. Exactly right. And hell, I mean, I'm not trying to break away from that game, but I mean, the Ole Miss Alabama game this weekend is probably going to be one of the best ones you'll see. It's Ole Miss's best chance to beat Alabama in years, and I think Alabama is prime for the picking. The Florida game that they played this week, it was fucking tight. I mean, if you watch it from the start, I mean, Florida has nothing and kept up with them, well past halftime. They made some changes, made it look like it wasn't as close as it should have been, much like LSU made it closer than it looked with State. I mean, State dominated them, and LSU scored 19 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it wasn't even close at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Right.
Which, I mean, goes back to the issue. With 3 minutes left, you're up by 3 scores. Yeah, I put in backups. I mean, you can't knock them. You can't knock them for that.
No, I mean, that's why I said it's a judgment call, but I guarantee you if State would have ended up losing that game, it would have been a much bigger deal. It would have been a lot more talked about.
Well, of course it would be. I think it'd be more talked about for the historic comeback that LSU put on them with down 3 scores with 3 minutes left to go.
Yeah. I mean, I had flashes in my head of not being able to watch SportsCenter for an entire week because of replays being shown over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And that two quick. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Perry. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that true freshman quarterback for LSU that they threw in there towards the end. That kid's going to be special.
Grief, yeah.
He's going to be special, man. He really is.
That was part of what I was about to say, man. Brandon Harris.
Yeah.
That kid, I mean, he like Anthony Jennings started the whole game. Brandon Harris came in through two TDs, 1 pick. But Leonard Fournette, true freshman running back, #1 recruit in the country. That motherfucker is Brandon Jacobs that can run a 4.3. He is a bad ass.
I mean, he's Adrian Peterson built like a Brandon Jacobs, basically.
Exactly, dude. I mean,
it's going to be nasty. And the kid's only 18.
They did what they could with him. Yeah, he's a kid.
Good gosh.
It's a kid that looks like Goldberg in wrestling, man.
Speaking of kids, I saw something the other day. There's a kid in high school. He's 7 foot, 380-pound defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. Showed a picture of him next to like an offensive lineman in high school, and I mean it. Oh, good gosh! It was like Vince Wilfork up against Danny Woodhead. It was like what the picture kind of it looked like, and it's like this poor offensive lineman. They don't stand a chance. I mean that kid. My gosh.
He puts one hand on the guard, puts the other hand on the guard, and puts his head on the center. It's just over with.
Isn't he talking to like Kentucky or some shit like that?
I don't know, but he has his choice
school or something.
Yeah, he has his choice of schools. He can go wherever he wants. Yeah. But if they were smart about it, if I was recruiting him, I'd be recruiting him for an offensive lineman, not a defensive lineman.
Good grief.
But so man, I'd like him next to Chris Jones next year. That'd be good.
Yeah, why not?
So in this game, the state game, we saw a great performance by a young quarterback, an epic performance, in my opinion, from Dak Prescott, which I don't think you've been able to say a great performance by a quarterback by Mississippi State in quite some time. But ever since this victory has come out, I wanted to throw this question out to you guys. Does this performance, and now that Dak Prescott is on the national scene, does this put him in a serious discussion as a Heisman candidate? What do you think, Eric?
I don't see why not. I mean, so far this year, all he has done is had a 178.4 quarterback rating, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks, and that's not even talking about what he does on the running game.
Right.
But just as a straight drop-back quarterback, which is his biggest question mark this year, and Mullen's run-first offense, let's not forget Mullen was the offensive coordinator for Florida when Tebow won all those championships. So, Mullen is going to be run-first. So Prescott having those numbers in the passing game, yeah, hell yeah. If he keeps up these type of numbers, and granted, I'm fully aware of the first 3 people they played against. I mean, we're talking about Southern Miss, Southern Alabama, and I'm sorry, what was the other one? UAB. Thank you, UAB. This is their first true test, but their first true test, and he does this? Hell yeah. I'm fired up about it. He threw for almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 11 yards per attempt, which is the key stat in most quarterbacks. I mean, you could throw it 50 times and get 300 yards. He threw it 24 and he got almost 300 yards. So,
yeah, I looked it up this afternoon to see what the actual odds were for the top candidates, and he's currently sitting at number 5. Number 1 right now is Marcus Mariota at 4-1. Kenny Hill, number 2, at 5-1. Bryce Petty at 7-1. Todd Gurley at 9-1, and then Dak at 12-1. And the previous favorite, Winston, is now at 18-1.
Winston will get back in the mix. I mean, he dropped down. I mean, the whole odds thing. I mean, look, we're getting into the bulk of the SEC schedule now.
Yes.
If he continues this performance, of course, it needs to be talked about. But he was talked about before the season as a dark horse candidate in the first place.
See, I hate that term. I hate that damn term. To me, it's like it's the same term as like high upside.
High upside, yeah.
It's a cop out. Is he a
candidate?
Not really. He's an outside shot.
He's not in a serious discussion, but yeah, if he sneaks in, he's got the talent to possibly do it. But
who in their right mind would say he'd be in the top 3 in the first place? I mean, that's basically Heisman candidates are, is the top 3 guys. Saying a dark horse is like, this guy has a chance, and putting his name out there. He's got a chance to do it. He's got the potential. Let's see if he actually can come through.
Well, I like that answer a lot better than just slapping the sticker of dark horse, because you can do that with 15, 20 different players. Oh, he's a dark horse candidate. That's just saying he's a good player that's turning heads.
That's easier to put in a headline than what I just said. That's where the term comes from.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say about players like Dak, these first 4 games, again, 3 against bullshit opponents, everybody always hates on those stats. They call them fake stats, like, oh, they're just padding the stats and making them look good. Well, the thing is, at the end of the year, when they're looking at the Heisman candidates, the very first thing they show is their stats. And it doesn't tell you how they got 40 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I mean, it doesn't go through a game-by-game analysis. So the fact that he got 8 touchdowns and 2 picks against Southern and UAB to start the season, nobody will remember that at the end. But if this team ends up doing terribly from here on out, because they're about to hit the fucking bulk. I mean, these next 3 weeks are about as legit as it gets for Mississippi State.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, he needs another couple of phenomenal performances like this. And if State ends up beating Texas A&M, if they're able to outgun Texas A&M and pull out a victory at home, that will definitely moving up. And especially if they beat Auburn, I think he'll be top 3. I mean,
they're
he's got to do a great performance. So.
They're going to need a performance like that if they have any chance with A&M and Auburn, in my opinion. I mean, A&M is going to be a shootout. I think that's where their better chance lies. Auburn is going to be a much, much tougher test. Extremely stout
almost
defense.
beat them last year.
Wait a minute, you actually say Auburn's going to be a tougher test than A&M. I like this, Perry.
Yeah.
So you don't think shit of Texas A&M either?
No. I love their offense. I think they have an incredible offense. I'm not a big fan of their defense.
Well, their defense has sucked ass high and tit ever since they got into the SEC. And Manziel made them look great. Kenny Hill's making them look fucking phenomenal, but everybody's trying to make them the world beaters. That's all I'm saying. I agree with you, Perry.
No, I mean, Auburn is where it truly lies. A&M is going to be a very tough matchup for them, but I think they have a better chance at A&M than they do at Auburn. But either way you look at it, these next 3 games, I think for them to be a true contender, they're going to have to win 2 out of these next 3.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if they can pull off a crazy upset win against Alabama, if they can do that and stay atop the SEC West,
I mean, after that, there won't be
the SEC. Yeah.
No, yeah, there's nothing after that, in my opinion, that will come close. I mean, I have like Arkansas and Vanderbilt, and I mean, any SEC games you're going to have the best come out of them, especially towards the end of the year and such. But I mean, this is where the season truly begins right now.
Yeah, and I played actually an off that when I said the next 3 weeks. I actually should have really said these 3 weeks.
3 games.
Well,
LSU
right.
counting it. Well, LSU was part of that 3-game thing that I was thinking in my mind, where it was LSU, they get a bye week, and they got A&M and Auburn. So, my apologies on that, saying it wrong, because after that it's Kentucky. So, I mean, that should be the pick-me-up game if we end up losing the next 2.
Was it Kentucky and then Alabama?
Kentucky, then Arkansas. We get Alabama on the 15th. And I'm looking at the schedule now. I don't have that shit in my head. I'm not a genius. But no, it's Kentucky, Arkansas, UT Martin, and then Alabama. So it's basically these next 2 weeks after this bye week. We'll see where we're at. But I really do want to go back to A&M because they're now considered like, oh my God, they're going to do all this great shit. And they beat South Carolina first game, and they beat the shit out of them. But the next 3 games they played Lamar, Rice, and SMU.
Kind of similar to State's schedule.
Yeah, their reverse schedule of State. Yeah,
exactly right. And granted, I mean South Carolina. I'm sorry, they lost their quarterback. I thought they were way too highly ranked after that, but then South Carolina beats Georgia in the 3rd week, made it look interesting, made it look like, well, fuck, okay, they can play. Or does that mean Georgia sucks? Because I think the SEC West as a whole is awful. I mean, this year alone, we could say the SEC West easily, by far, the better end of the conference. Because the East is just piss poor from top to bottom. Georgia lost their quarterback. South Carolina lost their quarterback. I mean,
But still, even with that, I mean, you take South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, they'll beat the USCs, the Ohio States. I mean, I don't think they'll beat Oklahoma or Oregon, but we're still talking about legitimate, like, top 10 to 15 schools there, and you're calling them piss poor.
By SEC standards, I guess.
thank you. Because the SEC West is as deep as it has ever been. As far
I
as,
agree.
especially what the polls say. Now, the reason for that being is because of teams getting credit with no quarterback. I mean, who's the best quarterback in the SEC?
At this point, I'd probably say Dak is the best quarterback in the SEC.
I agree.
Dak or
and
Kenny Hill from A&M. I mean,
yeah,
that kid can play, dude. He really can.
his defensive side, he's a hell of a quarterback. And I'd say probably Bo Wallace is the third. And when we got to bring Nick Marshall into the conversation in the top 5, that means the quarterback situation has gotten awful.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC has never really been known for quarterback play. I mean, that's pretty much coming out of the ACC or the Pac-12, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves now.
You're right, though, but in the last few years, though, the SEC actually has some pretty solid quarterbacks. Now, granted, A.J. McCarron, what did he do?
Game manager. And just like, here, don't win me the games, but just don't fuck them up.
Pretty much.
I mean, probably Aaron Murray from a stats perspective. His skill set
up in the NFL draft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I don't see much potential for him in the NFL, but I mean, it's just the SEC probably in the last, I don't know, probably decade or more. They're not known for their quarterbacks. They're known for the stout defenses. They're the hit 'em, smash mouth, in your face football, and that's what you get.
Can I give you a trivia question?
Sure.
Who's the best quarterback to come out of the SEC in the last 10 years? And Eli's not the answer.
No, it'd probably be Cam.
I think that's a judgment call. I'd actually say Matthew Stafford, though. But, I mean, that's what we're looking at.
Cam or Stafford is the only two options you have there.
Yeah, they're I mean, but that was really the point. In 10 years, all these great SEC schools, and we've got 2 quarterbacks we can talk about. That tells you right there. I mean, it's not that much different, but Dak's the best. I like it. Go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. So yeah, let's hope they can keep it together and pull off a couple quote unquote upsets in the next couple of weeks, and maybe we'll have a whole lot more to talk about.
What's going to be great is if they can pull it out against A&M. I don't think there's a chance in hell that College Game Day won't be in Starkville the following week against Auburn. You have 2 top 10 schools going at it.
Yeah, the SEC networks people like Tim Tebow and
SEC Nation.
Guys, yeah, they're going to be there this next game for A&M.
Tebow picked us to win. Tebow will be in. Tebow will be there at the game. I mean, Jesus is watching over us. We got it.
You're right.
We got Jesus on our side. We can't lose.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was the only one out of that whole crew that picked State to win over LSU. I thought that was pretty great.
Never bet against Tebow, man.
I'm glad he's out there in some way, shape, or form, man. I mean, I think he really is one of the truly just great guys. I really do.
I just wish he was a better football player.
He knows his stuff, man. You could really tell by listening to him. He knows what he's talking about.
It's pretty crazy. Since Peyton Manning went to Denver, he's 0-2 in overtime games. In 1 year, Tebow was 4-0 in overtime games playing for Denver. Take that what you will.
Well, Peyton Manning's probably only had 2 overtime games, so
yeah, and he's 0-2.
That.
He's 0-2. He can't win in overtime.
Is Matt Prater still his kicker? Because I thought that was really.
So, with this discussion, let's go ahead and start talking about the NFL Week 3.
Sounds good to me.
Because that game definitely is going to come up in discussion. So let's start off with the Thursday night game, where the Falcons completely decimated the Bucs. And like I said a couple weeks ago, the Bucs look sad. They're basement crawlers, and they just keep showing it.
Dude, they put 14 game on them in the fourth quarter, man. I mean, they're legit.
They're
Against
legit.
backups.
Oh my god. Yeah. I stopped watching after the first quarter. It was like, there's just no fucking way. The Bucs will make anybody look like contenders at this point.
It made me happy seeing Devin Hester come back to a little
Yeah.
form, you know.
Yeah, I got to give it to
Trying
the
to go-
kid. Man, the record holder now for return touchdowns. I mean,
Congrats.
you got to give it to the kid.
Hell yeah.
I got
So
love for him. I always will, man.
That he's he's not as fast as he used to be. He used to run at 4.2. Now he's at 4.3.
Yeah. He's ancient.
Decrepit old bastard, you know.
Mhm.
It hits us all at some point in time. So, Perry, what was something that you saw come out of Week 3?
Well, I saw a lot of things. I saw bad officiating yet again. But I think an underlying factor in pretty much the majority of Week 3 games was how much self-destruction happened. People shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, it was one of the flattest weeks of football that I can remember watching. Outside, a couple games here or there that was actually really good. The majority of which was very poor football, like across the board. It was very, very aggravating, and I was not at all entertained on Sunday watching all these games.
I'm sure you weren't, man. Like, the Texans got their ass kicked by the Giants, so
There
why
it
would
is.
you enjoy this week? Rashad Jennings made that fucking defensive front look like a bitch.
Dude.
He really did, dude.
It hadn't been just him. Hell, even McFadden put up like 80 yards against him. I mean, Alfred Morris would have had a really great game if they would have kept giving him the ball, but they stopped running. So, I mean, that's the big problem with the Texans right now is stopping the run. It's going to be a big, big problem.
Well, I'll carry on to actually probably my most interesting beatdown, though, was seriously the Steelers kicking the Panthers' ass. I mean, we were talking about Panthers, like, possibly being, they were leading the conference, 2 weeks in, which didn't mean shit, but, the Panthers were looking solid, and all of a sudden, what happens? Well, the Steelers just do what they do. Came back around. Roethlisberger didn't put up a great performance, but Bell sure as fuck did.
Yeah. It was a weird game to watch. That offensive line came back from late 1990s.
Shit.
I mean, they seriously look like they woke the fuck up. I honestly don't have any other words for it besides that. That's where the game ball should go to, is that whole offensive line. I mean, it opened up holes that I could fucking run through.
They had 200-yard rushers on the day, right? I mean, LeGarrette Blount, I'm looking at it right now, at 10 carries, 118 yards, average 12 a carry.
Yeah, that doesn't happen against Carolina. It's just
He's
it
just
doesn't.
a step faster than you are, too. Like,
Yeah.
he's not a fast running back.
It was.
So,
it was-
I mean, that game completely flipped the tables on who everybody is saying is, like, the best defensive front in football. The Steelers made them look bad.
Like bitches, man. And this is why we love the NFL, is it not? Because
yeah, I mean, it changes every week.
Yeah.
Every fucking week it's like, wait, what the hell just happened? Houston's got the best defense, and the Giants, who look like shambles on offense, make them look like bitches, and then you turn around and Pittsburgh, who looked like a dumpster fire on offense, and Carolina looked like beasts. I mean, that's why I had to bring those two in, because I believe in the Texans defense. I think they're great. I think they're strong, and I think so is Carolina, but these shitty teams with these shitty offenses the first few weeks, and what happens?
The best defensive front. The best defensive front after the first 3 weeks, the Jets.
Yeah,
that's fucking.
I don't even think
last night.
I don't even think it's close. I really don't. I think the Jets by a long shot.
The only reason the Jets beat my Bears last night is because of Geno Smith. No, I said that
the
wrong.
Only reason the Bears
they didn't beat. I'm sorry. My bad. But that's the only reason because.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, basically, if they'd have just fucking snapped it to a running back, they'd have been better off than having Geno Smith throw the ball. That's it. Because Chris Ivory and Chris Johnson didn't do much, but that fucking defense, oh my God.
Yeah, that front seven is serious, man. They can stop the run for sure.
That front 11, dude. And their corners aren't for shit. At least we didn't think they were, and they really aren't for shit, but Rex, goddammit, I give you credit, brother.
Yeah, they had some of the
strong.
They had some of the weirdest schemes. Even Gruden was like, I don't know what the hell that was. Like, I've never seen that before.
And Gruden was an offensive coach. Like, I mean, if he's sitting there telling you that they went from a 3-4 to a 5-7, then it's like, wait, what is a 5-7 exactly? Like, is that a formation?
You're right, but I mean, in talking about the bad officiating, there was two extremely, extremely poor decisions out there during that game, and one was offensive or the pass interference on one of the Bears' first drives, a pass interference on the Jets, nowhere close, and then second, I believe, is in the third quarter. Cutler fumbled, Jets recovered it, brought it back for a touchdown, but the refs blew the whistle.
Now that one I'll agree with.
Now
that was bullshit.
Oh my gosh, dude! Oh god! I mean, you talk about shooting a team in the foot. I mean, it was
the Jets ended up getting the ball.
They got the ball, but they should have gotten the touchdown where they didn't.
I know
they
that's
had the ball.
What was like one of the worst things you'll ever see, thanks to instant replay. Like.
I mean, it's just this officiating is really seriously getting on my fucking nerves, and it's not getting any better. It's getting worse every week.
Can I tell you why though? Not every week, every year, because every year the NFL, the reactive league that it is, changes so many fucking rules on these referees that you have to basically pass a bar exam before you can start a season. Now, granted, they don't have to pass to go out there and be referees, but how about let's just keep the rules as they are for a couple years? Let the referee crews do their job properly. But they've got so much new shit to learn every year, it's impossible to keep up with.
I'm sorry, but I don't know of anything new that happened on that play that they weren't sure about. It was a fucking fumble scooped up for a touchdown that they were thinking stole.
The 17 other new rules is the problem. They were thinking of all those, and that's why they couldn't pick up on the old ones. And I'm saying,
can only hold so much.
I'm a Bears fan, and I'm saying it was bullshit call. Like, I'm telling you, the Jets should have had that touchdown, and honestly, it should have been a 27-26 victory for the Bears, by the way. Because, I mean, it was 27-19. I'll give them that play.
No. The whole complexion of the game could have possibly changed right there. Because then you put the pressure back on Cutler, and, well, we know how he handles himself under pressure.
Fairly well, actually, the first few weeks.
Shut up.
He's looking like a real good quarterback.
No.
Real good.
No. No.
Well, one thing that did not change this past week is, I'll say it again, San Francisco's defense has issues.
You're right about that.
Hey, I'm right this week, but I wasn't right last week, apparently.
I'm sorry. There's no bandwagon, but I've fallen off of it if there is.
Because Arizona come in and they played a pretty damn good game, and with their injuries and backup quarterback, I mean, they look like a better team out on the field than San Francisco does right now. San Francisco doesn't look like a playoff team, which, I feel bad for picking them to win the damn division now.
Yeah, I think we all misplayed how much Bowman's injury actually hurts them. Because they do.
And Alvin Smith, too.
Yeah, and Smith being gone. I think Bowman hurts a little bit more. I really do. Because, I mean, it was basically a captain on the defense, like the quarterback of the defense. No offense to Patrick Willis, but I think that was Bowman's team to control. Him going down, golly, nobody anticipated it would have hurt this much.
No.
But what's killing me with San Francisco, and I can't wrap my fucking finger around it to save my life, but how they start out so strong, and they come out the second half and look terrible. They've scored like 3 points in the second half this year. Something crazy. I mean, there's no excuse for that. And there's no rhyme or reason for me to figure it out. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't.
It sounds like the Mike Holmgren syndrome, which, if y'all remember him, he was the Packers head coach back in the day. And his offensive coordinator was actually Andy Reid. I can't remember who his DC was. He was a pretty solid guy, too. But Holmgren, first time I ever remember them talking about it on Monday Night Football or whatever it was, he had his first 25 plays mapped, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, he had his shit so well planned that he would go through and no matter what happened with the game, he would run those first 25 plays. And the offense, I mean, spot on. I mean, it got them to many, many big leads, 21-0, whatever. But it was always middle of third quarter, fourth quarter where the offense started struggling. And I'm wondering if Harbaugh is not one of those coaches where he's got everything so mapped out to start with that when things start changing in the game, he has trouble adapting to it.
It's probably the best explanation I've heard so far. So, I mean, it can't shoot it down. It's a possibility. It is.
We know Harbaugh's a good coach. We know he's a motivator. We know he's a good coach. But what happens? Why does he lose the close games? Why does he lose it in the fourth quarter?
Well, there have been rumors floating around that he's losing the locker room. Have you heard anything about those?
Yeah, I have, but that wouldn't explain their big leads that they give away. Why would they jump out on front so much and then not score in the second half? It's not like his players are like, okay, we're going to go jump out to this huge lead and stop playing.
I'll tell you the problem that I see just looking at a box score. All right, just taking this game as what it is. Who had the most rushes for San Francisco?
Kaepernick, probably.
By how much would you guess, though?
At least 2-1 from the last game.
You would nail it then, because Kaepernick had 13 carries for 54 yards. Frank Gore, who is their fucking bell cow, got 6. Carlos Hyde got 3. That is not a running game, guys.
No.
That's not fooling anybody, and no wonder they're having locker room troubles with at least their running back core.
Yeah.
But Arizona does have a stout run defense. You got to give them credit for that.
But you can't go away. You can't make the run a damn. I mean, like if Kaepernick passes it 37 times, runs it for 13, that means he had the touches 50 times, and his other two backs had it 9. You can't have that ratio. A 50 to 9 ratio is not a balanced attack.
Yeah, I mean
that is true. Yes,
you're running it.
Balancing
20,
it out. Yeah,
running it 20-something times isn't the issue. It's how many times Kaepernick rushed it compared to Gore and Hyde. That's the issue. Don't matter what team you're running it on. It don't matter if they have the stoutest defense on the face of the planet. I mean, rushing it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not like you're hoping to get that one big home run play. It's wearing the fuckers down, keeping the tempo, controlling the clock. And that, if
keeping them
nothing
honest.
else, is what San Francisco is. That's why
you gotta keep them honest.
Yeah, that's why that zone read option. I mean, it works so perfectly for him. And also losing Vernon Davis, I think, is really killing him as well.
Yeah.
At least getting the first downs, to keep the sticks
Hell, I
moving.
would say for the blocking, he's the best blocking tight end in the NFL. He doesn't get enough credit for that. Vernon Davis blocks his ass off, and him pushing out, kicking out that defensive end. That's something most tight ends can't do.
Yeah.
They have to dial down the play and have a tackle kick out the actual defensive end, and then have the tight end maybe go and hit a linebacker if they can, and it's a shield block bullshit. Vernon Davis will kick someone's ass off tackle. And being able to do that, even in the NFL, I mean, it's still the most simple play on earth. Run off tackle right, run off tackle left. But if you're kicking them motherfuckers out 3-4 yards off the ball, all it takes is one cut, they're getting 8 yards to carry.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there is some issues there. I really, I think it's more of they need to go back to the balance, and they need, he needs to tell Kaepernick, look, you're my quarterback, you're not my running back. Of course, I mean, look, rushing 5 to 10 times a game is something you expect from Kaepernick. I'm okay with that, but anything more than that, like you said, 13, him having more carries than, like you said, their workhorse, Frank Gore. Shit, there's no excuse for
Yeah,
that.
that needs to change.
They had a statistic that was something along the lines of when Frank Gore runs the ball 20 times a game, they win it like 92% of the time or something. And this is a stat from last year that I just remembered in my head, but I mean, it was still just like when their team goes run to pass, not pass to run, in that order, kind of. You set up one or the other to accomplish the other, unless you're Peyton Manning, and then it doesn't fucking matter. But you set up one or the other to make the other one work for you, which actually the Saints do this very well. They pass first to set up the run, which is why I think they are one of the worst 1 and 2 teams on earth, though, Chris. What did they do this weekend?
They won.
They beat a Minnesota team that was in shambles. Barely.
I was actually going to bring that up. There's out of the wins this week, there's 2 wins from 2 teams that I'm very skeptical about. It should have been a whole lot more. One was one was the Saints, and the other one, New England, at home against Oakland. And Oakland almost had it there at the end, almost tied the game at the very end. I mean, we're so close. And Minnesota, and then putting in, Teddy Bridgewater came in. But, I was just surprised that New Orleans at home, they only put up, 20 points?
Yeah. I mean, like for New Orleans, that's a piss-poor performance.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And like you said, Minnesota's in complete and total shambles right now, losing their best player. Don't know if you're going to have them back, this year or even ever.
Ever.
Yeah, golly, man. I really expected a better performance from New Orleans. I really did.
Yeah, I kind of did too. But Minnesota's offense did not look very good. That wasn't the issue there. The issue was New Orleans' offensive line not being able to stop Minnesota's pass rush. And Minnesota's pass rush has been fairly good. They can get after the quarterback, and they're quick, they're fast, they're mean. They really surprised New Orleans, and there were quite a few plays there where Drew was running for his life. It shouldn't happen that way, and normally it doesn't happen that way. They got to get their shit together real quick.
And you're right about that. And Minnesota, we were giving their defense credit just a couple weeks ago. So it was just shocking to me though that they lose that much, and I'm expecting a 40-10 kind of line. And it looked to me, because I didn't watch the game, but just looking at the line, it was just like that's kind of pathetic. 20-9. But
Yeah, Jimmy Graham was held to, what was it?
50 yards or
50
something like
yards. Yeah, 50 yards on like 6 receptions. I mean, Drew did not have time to get the ball out of his hands.
Brandon Cook's still looking like a badass, though.
Oh my God, yeah, Rookie of the Year, dude.
Yeah, he'll get it, dude. In this offense, he'll get it. And Breeze didn't look bad. Like, when he got to throw the ball, shit, hold on, let me look at it. He went 27 for 35. It wasn't like Drew Brees did badly.
Well, he broke his streak of consecutive 300-yard passing games
By 7
home.
yards.
Yeah, by 7 yards. But yeah, I mean, they had some issues running the ball against Minnesota, which that is not unusual. If Minnesota's offense, if they had Adrian Peterson, they probably would have won this game.
That's kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
Like, really with it. Like, it scares me because I gave the Saints credit, man. I thought their defense was ready. And even letting Minnesota do what they did to get in position to get the 3 field goals, I mean, to me, this should have been a 20-0. If the defense was that strong on the Vikings, the Saints, I don't know who the favorite is in the NFC right now because it's all fucked up.
Well, honestly, Seattle moves right back up into the top spot, which was our Sunday afternoon game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Seattle at home playing against the Broncos, and it wasn't a dominant victory this time like it was in the Super Bowl. It went to overtime, and as Perry said, Peyton did not win this one in overtime, but he didn't get a chance to get the ball also.
Yeah, it don't matter. Tebow would have gotten the ball.
Yeah.
Jesus would have made it tails every time.
Damn right.
So, do you think that Seattle and Denver is the Super Bowl matchup favorite now that San Francisco's dropping the ball, literally?
I mean, they've been the favorite since Super Bowl last year. And I don't think that's changed.
Well, the problem with the NFL, though, is that if you have the same matchup 2 years in a row, you're shocked. So it's almost like the good money is to bet against whatever happened last year.
Right.
But
I mean,
Seattle's
everybody was
looking just
saying
as strong.
Right. I mean, everybody was saying that, the Super Bowl hangover, blah, blah, blah. Seattle's not going to be as good as what they were. San Francisco was coming up, and, everybody was jumping on San Francisco's wagon, I guess you call it, and saying that they were going to win the division. And all 3 of us said it. San Francisco was going to be the top team. Super Bowl favorites. But now it's looking not that way.
But yeah, I think we were more of the odd ones out instead of the majority. And I still think the majority of people on Seattle's division.
Well, the thing is, though, they did lose against the Chargers.
But I mean, it was away from Seattle. That's not really a
Wait a minute.
terrible
So
thing.
you're only supposed to win your home games?
Not only.
Seattle is.
Like,
I mean, not only, but I mean, Seattle. Seattle, you get 8 sure wins when you're playing at home, and then
It's the fucking Chargers, dude.
the Chargers aren't a bad team. I mean,
Yeah, but
where do you
team
get
in the NFL? Obviously, from what we've seen in the last week, what happened, the huge fucking shift in these random games, and Houston getting their ass kicked like kind of shit. I'm sorry, I keep bringing up your team, but I
That has nothing to do with which. Okay.
No, like
What the fuck does that have to do with Seattle?
And New Orleans not dominating the Vikings. Like, the Bears barely beating the Jets, in my opinion, with a piss poor offense. Like, all of our teams should be dominating last week at the very least. So, all I mean is that San Diego, are we suddenly calling them fucking contenders?
They may have a wild card shot. Legitimately.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I don't see them. If
who the fuck else in the AFC is going to step up? I mean, Indy
you
come out with the win.
yeah, you're going to have
Against
between
the Jags.
Indy. Shut up! You got it between Indy or Houston that's going to get one of them, and the second one, I don't see any reason why San Diego can't get it. I mean,
Indy's 1-2. Why are we giving Indy props? They beat the Jaguars. Good.
they've been
fucking
in
job.
every single game. Every single game. And the
Yeah,
refs kind of fucked them out of the Indy
God
Philly
bless.
game. Yeah, I mean, we
Well,
talked about it
well,
last
you
week,
see-
too. They did.
Well,
you
let's
need to start
consider.
giving the referees lube before the start of the game because
Dude, it's
you
been
think you're getting
terrible.
fucked by them every time.
Dude, it's
Well,
been terrible.
Let's consider another team, Cleveland. They lost another close one this past week. The 2 games that they have lost have been by a combined total of 5 points. Less than a touchdown gave them 2 losses. This team is so close to being 3-0 right now, very surprisingly.
Also very
But
close
they
to
are
being
holding
0-3.
That is true. But they are holding their own against teams where they probably should not be holding their own. And
Against the Ravens with no Ray Rice? Nah, dude.
That game...
I'm sorry. I
against
love what
Pittsburgh-
you're saying. I do, but
Pittsburgh's
Pittsburgh
nothing's...
beat Carolina. They almost beat Pittsburgh. I'm just saying, once
got a point.
Jordan Cameron comes back, if they had a if Josh Gordon wasn't suspended, this team would be nasty, man.
he may have a
That's
point
why-
there because Josh Gordon will come back. So
Yeah, but I still don't think they're anywhere close to contender right now. I mean, next year I'll give it to them. You know, if Gordon can stay out of trouble and a healthy Cameron. Next year I think they might have a chance. This year I just don't see it. I really don't.
Well, because we've been trained over the last 20 years to think that Cleveland sucks.
Well, it is Cleveland. I mean, pretty much across the board. And in Cleveland City,
they have a stout defense.
well, I'm saying Cleveland across the board with, I mean, Indians, Browns, and the Cavs. I got you. Cleveland has a stigma for, well, not winning. At least, you know, from a championship perspective.
Are they the most desperate sports city? Do you think?
I think so. I really
yeah,
do.
every day they watch the movie Major League and just like jerk off to it. Every time Charlie Sheen gets that last strikeout, it's like, oh, 99! Oh, oh, and they just fucking just cream all over the TV screen like wives in Cleveland just are constantly having to clean off the front of the TV. Because of the movie Major League.
Oh, that's about nasty. Oh, all right. So another game that kind of took my attention also is that the Packers, they lost a surprising game to Detroit. In my opinion, I think their defense looks okay. You know, Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers, they're getting it done. But the offense is uncharacteristically struggling. So what do you guys think it is, Eric? I'll come to you first. Do you think it's a scheme issue? Is it their offensive line? Running back problems? I mean, why can't one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL make touchdowns? Why can't he move the ball?
Look, I've got Randall Cobb on my fantasy team, but I'll be honest, I've never been impressed with their wide receiver core. I think his looks scarily similar to the Patriots. I think it's a bunch of overrated wide receivers who have been basically basking in the glory of a great quarterback. And I think defenses have basically figured out how to stop it to a point. And also, I don't think Eddie Lacy's about shit. And them trying to base a running game around him is pathetic. He's an Alabama running back. What can you say? It takes him 5 years to become anything noteworthy. Mark Ingram.
Noteworthy? Look at his fucking numbers last year.
Yeah, he was a beast.
Jesus Christ, dude. Like, where the fuck have you been?
I think the main key word y'all just said is was a beast. Because
No, he is a
he hadn't
beast.
done shit this year.
Now, see,
No,
what
he
you
hasn't.
say-
It's
what
3
you're
games
saying
against
here-
very, very stout run defenses.
He is not a fucking game changer, is the thing. A stout run defense stops him. A game changer makes it to where it doesn't matter who the fuck you're playing against. Which
So
brings
your
me
boy
back
Matt
around to what
Forte
Chris,
fucking sucks too, huh?
what brought me around to what Chris said was, do you think it's the offensive line? And yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because the offensive line struggles are what make it to where Aaron Rodgers can't make his shitty wide receiver core look good and make his shitty running game look good. Because it was pass first, run second. with that team the last few years, just like the Saints. Everybody wants to think of the power running Packers and all that shit. No, it wasn't.
They haven't been power running for the longest fucking time. I mean, Eddie Lacy had a great season last year because the quarterback got hurt. So he had to step up and do something, and he actually did. But, see, what you're saying here is bringing me back to our discussion preseason when I said I don't think the Packers are going to win this division because Aaron Rodgers doesn't really have anybody to throw it to. And y'all about jump down my throat for it. And now you're coming and reiterating that point. So I feel better now about that.
Look, my belief system stems just as far as about a week when it comes to the NFL. I won't lie. And I argue this point. My boy Colin Cowherd says it best. It's if I don't change my opinion based off new knowledge, then that just makes me an idiot even more. So Amen. If I just stick with the same dumb opinion that I had 4 weeks ago in the preseason, then, well, I'm a fucking moron. So the more I see it, the more I see what is happening, the more I'll go with what I see.
Yeah. Now, speaking history-wise, we have seen Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. We have them be more consistently great receivers than we have seen them towards the bottom of the barrel. So they are talented receivers. There's something else going on there.
It's their offensive line. It's terrible.
Okay.
I mean, their receivers aren't crap. They really aren't. There's 29 other teams that love to have Jordy Nelson right now. The same way with Randall Cobb. They don't have a tight end at all. Their offensive line is terrible. They can't block worth of shit. But, I mean, McCarthy just basically called out the whole team. He said, we have to run better. We got to block better. Eddie Lacy's pretty much doing the same things, putting it all on him. They are going to dominate the Bears next week. Mark my words. Dominate.
Man, that hurts.
All right. Hashtag bold predictions.
Yeah, Eddie Lacy will score 20 fantasy points. Bold prediction. It's going to be a coming out party for him, man. He's been bottled up every single week.
You know what? Maybe we should start bold predictions. Maybe we should
start
doing that.
That's my fantasy dud for next week is Eddie Lacy.
My fantasy dud for the year is Eddie Lacy right now.
All right. So let's go ahead and get it.
Chris.
Let's go ahead and get into that then. So I think all the interesting games have been talked about. So we're going to talk about the fantasy studs and duds for the first 3 weeks in the NFL. So Perry, you said your fantasy dud.
I have two of them, and both of them are on my team.
I'm sure they fucking are because one of them's on mine. Or one of them's on my list.
I'm going to make it very, very, very easy. I didn't want to look too much into this, but one of them, of course, is Eddie Lacy. We all know he hadn't done shit the first 3 weeks. Now again, against some stout defenses. My other one is Keenan Allen. So far, after 3 weeks, he scored 10.9 points.
He's a bitch.
10.9 points. Now, given it, it's against his highest scoring week was against Seattle. Last week I really thought he was going to step up and against Buffalo, and he threw out 1.7 points. First week, he was covered by Patrick Peterson. Can't really blame him. He only got 3 points. Anyway,
he's a bitch.
He's not a bitch. He's just had a rough 3 weeks. My other dud is, like I said, Eddie Lacy. He scored a total of 13.1 points.
All right, so Eric, who are your dud? Or who is your dud or duds?
Yeah, I didn't know we had duds plural. Thank you, Perry, for breaking the goddamn rules as usual. Keenan Allen is my fantasy
I set the fucking rule. I can break it.
Keenan Allen by far, and I'll even bring out to say it's not entirely his fault. In 3 weeks, he's had 17 targets. There are shitty running backs ranked in the 2000s that have had 17 targets.
Yeah.
So he's caught 12 passes for 109 yards. So 17 targets, 12 receptions for 109 yards with no touchdowns looks like a good 1 week stat.
Mm-hmm.
That's over 3 weeks, though.
17 targets in 1 week? What fucking team is that on? That hardly ever happens.
It's actually on the Chargers, and that would be Antonio Gates. Anyway,
17
just do your
targets.
research, kid. Yeah, just look up one of the weeks. It's fine. All right. Seriously, though, Dennis Pitta had 15 targets the first week with the Ravens. Like,
That was
10 to
one good
15
game.
targets for your number one wide receiver is not that shocking. So
Let's see.
17 targets over 3 weeks is pathetic.
Let's see. Antonio Gates last week,
Oh,
1
good
target.
Lord.
Week 2, 7 targets. Week 1, 10 targets.
I was trying to make a comparison on the same team.
And you fucking sucked royally on it.
Oh, good God.
Let's see. Okay, all right, hang on. Let's see. Julio Jones this past week put up 28 points on 11 targets. Week 2, 13 targets. Week 1, 9 targets. So, I mean, you're right, he should be getting about 10 to 12 maybe, but 17 in one given week, that's asking a whole awful lot.
You see my point, though. When we're talking about even the top targets, Jordan Nelson's had 37, Calvin Johnson 34, Julio Jones 33. Hell, Emmanuel Sanders, the third wide receiver, 33. Granted, I know Welker hadn't played, so we'll call him the number 2 wide receiver. But still, you're in the 30s. If you're a top wide receiver after 3 weeks, you're getting 10 targets a week. He's got 17. That's wide receiver 4 status. It's pathetic. So not only is he not getting the production, he's not getting the targets, which is the scarier thing. He gets a touchdown or 2 in there, we're talking differently about it. Yeah. But Keenan Allen, 2nd-round pick by Mr. Perry Lewis, waste of fucking time.
He was not my 2nd-round pick. Get your shit right before you start throwing it out there, dipshit.
Perry's angry. He's 0-3.
Julio Jones was my 2nd-round pick. Thank you very much.
Well, then you should know how many targets a top wide receiver should get. Anyway.
And it's not 17. No, that's the only part that I was arguing with you on.
All right, so we're just doing the duds first. We'll come back around to the studs.
Damn it!
So my dud for the first 3 weeks is Jamal Charles.
Oh, that's cheap, dude.
That is pretty cheap.
He got hurt, man. That didn't count.
But he's lots of people's first overall pick. I mean, he was at least a 1st-round pick.
It's like Adrian Peterson being a dud. I'm sorry to know he beat a kid.
Ray Rice.
Dud, but
Ray Rice is my dud.
Well, I mean, he didn't get hurt. He had 40 rushing yards in his 2 weeks. So he had 4 points in 2 weeks that he played. That is Dudley. That's pretty Dudley. That is Dudley. No, he was injured the 3rd week, but in fantasy, that's still a big goose egg, whether he was injured or not.
He actually got hurt in week 2 in the 1st quarter. So he only played a game and a quarter.
A game and a quarter and got 40 yards.
It's better than 2 games, but still.
Yeah.
That's better than Keenan Allen.
But for a first round pick that gets injured, that's a dud. In my so Perry, who's your stud?
There's one and only stud here. It's Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck all day.
Oh God.
I mean,
how about let's just pick all the people on your own team?
Well, like I said, I'm making it very, very easy. Right now in our league, he's the number 1 ranked guy, not just quarterback, number 1 ranked overall, with 95.88 points scored through the first 3 weeks. You do the math. You tell me. That's like Peyton Manning type numbers from last year so far after 3 weeks. I'll take it. Fantasy darling, fantasy star right now.
Jaguars. Anyway.
Philly and Denver. Okay.
What's sad is I've got a Colt myself, and I'm giving him props, and I base it off projected and actual rankings at Ahmad Bradshaw. But he's gotten 37 touches, and I predicted Trent Richardson being the beast. All he's done coming from the Giants is basically take over the top role and make no questions asked about it. So that and the 3 touchdowns definitely help. So Ahmad Bradshaw's my stud for the first 3 weeks.
All right, so my stud, I go by more off of value than performance. So the late round that he was picked up more than makes up, or he's earning his keep and much more, making him think he should have been picked earlier. But my stud is Darren Sproles. Maybe not for what he did in week 3, but the first 2 weeks, that more than makes up for it. And, yeah, he's surprising a lot of people on the number 1 offense in the league. Gotta hand it to him.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that, even though you're a Saints fan, and I think that's a bandwagon pick. But
he's not even playing for the Saints anymore.
I know.
But
I really thought he was about to say Brandon
on my
Cooks.
team. Yeah. All right, so those are our studs and duds for the first 3 weeks. Maybe we'll come back and look at this after another couple of weeks and see who else comes up and surprises us.
Andrew Luck was like my 7th round pick, and he's number 1 fantasy right now, so I'll take it.
So on to our picks for week 4, and just to look back at how we are standing right now. Perry is sitting at the top with a record of 10-5. So congratulations. I'm 2 games behind you at 8-7, and Eric's bringing up the rear at below 500 with a record of 7-8.
As usual.
Poop.
So this week's games, the first off is, I believe it's a Thursday night game, the Giants and Redskins. So, Eric, who do you have in this game?
Giants.
Oh, shit, I better write this down. Okay.
After the domination that I saw of a pretty damn good defense. But no, seriously, like the Giants are that team, as long as they got Tom Coughlin as the head coach. I believe in the turnaround from week to week, and honestly, I think they'll get it this week. I do. I like Kirk Cousins a lot. I just don't like the Redskins. So,
all right. Well, I'm going the opposite way. I'm going with the Redskins. I think Kirk Cousins is going to completely light up that weak Giant secondary, and it's going to be at least a 3-touchdown victory, I think. So what about you, Perry?
I agree with you. I'm going with Washington. Giants, it's seriously crazy to me how, the team 1 will show up 1 week and then you have a team 2 shows up the next week. You never know which Giants you're getting, and that's basically wraps around Eli Manning. You never know what type of performance he's going to put out there. You can't expect Jennings to have that type of performance like he did last week, because he's not that great of a player. He's just not. I said that in the preseason. I'm not a Rashad. He's not the answer there. So, but with that being said, I think Cousins is going to torch him. It's at Washington, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Redskins all day.
One interesting statistic that I heard today, ever since Geno Smith has been in the league, the most interceptions thrown without, how they put it, defensive interference, so to speak. Basically, you throw a bad pass, and no doubt it gets intercepted. Geno Smith is number 1, but Eli Manning's number 2. Just heard that today. Thought it was interesting.
Wow. I would not have thought Eli was number 2.
Yeah, he's that bad at throwing the wrong pass at the wrong time.
No, I thought he was number 1.
Nice. Very nice.
All right, so that's our picks for that game.
Well, he would be if Geno wasn't playing. Anyway, I'm sorry.
All right, next up is a noon game, which this is the one that caused me the most, I don't know, going back and forth on, is Buffalo at Houston. So we know what Perry's going to say. So, Perry, who's your pick? Make it official.
It's not even that I'm that big a believer that Houston's going to win this. I believe I am absolutely correct, where you two are wrong in saying that Buffalo is actually a good team. They're not. And they're going at Houston, Fitzpatrick's old team. they're going to beat them up. Houston all day.
All right, I'm going Houston as well on this one, mostly because they are at Houston, and I think even though the Bills have a good defense, it's going to be a low-scoring game. I can pretty much guarantee that, and it's probably going to go down to the wire, but I'm going to give the Texans the edge because they're at home. I mean, there's only a 3-point difference in the Vegas standings or odds right now. It's only a 3-point difference, and that's probably exactly what it's going to be. Close game, but I'm giving Houston the advantage. What about you, Eric?
Who's Vegas giving the 3 to?
Houston.
That's pretty much a home field advantage 3 right
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. Like. Yeah, that's all it is.
I'll actually go with Buffalo because I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick. Hold on. I've got this great name for him, and I need to repeat this. Can you edit that part out?
I thought
okay,
we
that's
turn
enough
this
time.
week.
Hold on. Yeah, I know. I'm just to the people that do our job for us and shit. Ryan Fitzpatrick. God damn it! I can't say it right. It's tied my tongue. Ryan Fitzpatrick. I've got to say it now. I got to say it. Fitzpatrick sizzle. God damn it. It was so hard to say.
Fitzpatrick
sizzle.
Fitzpatrick. God damn it! It's impossible to say. It's impossible with the tongue.
It's impossible with the beer.
Fitzpatrick
sizzle.
Sizzle. Like Sizzler, like he's the Western sizzling of quarterbacks. God damn it.
I'm a fan of Western sizzling.
Anyway. You are a Houston fan, so in that sense. All right.
I'll take Western sizzling over some Applebee's.
I don't think his sizzle will be going on this week. All right, so I'm going with Buffalo. I'm honestly am.
All right, thank you.
He's got to try to catch up in the standings somehow.
Oh, fucking A, yeah. All right, next game is, let me make sure to see who's at home here.
Fitzpatrick sizzle. There we go. See, that's what I was trying to say.
When it doesn't even fucking matter anymore.
Exactly. Fitzpatrick sizzle. I had to like word it out in my head.
When the pressure's sizzle. Off. Hopefully we'll hear that again at some point this season.
Never.
I'm going to call him.
Yeah, you should bring it up.
I'm going to call him Fitz Shizzle for the rest of the year.
Fitz Shizzle. That's much better. That's a much better thing. I can say that all the time.
Fitz Shady.
Fitz Shizzle.
Yeah, I think
fuck y'all's like. Fuck your ability to articulate words and shit. Both of you.
Oh god, I can't wait to make the opening for this week. All right, so the next game on the list is a pretty interesting one, I think. It's the Packers at the Bears. Eric, we know who you're going for.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Do I need to give reasons why?
Nah. What about you, Perry?
I mean, I said it earlier. I think it's going to be a coming out party for the Packers offense. They have a very terrible Bears defense outside of, what's his name, Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller's a beast. When Charles Tillman comes back, they're going to have a great cornerback to him.
Kyle Fuller is the real deal. I actually really like the kid. I really do. But outside of him, they got nobody. I mean,
their secondary is fucking hurting, dude. They're working on like their third safety right now.
It don't matter. Jared Allen is no, he's done, man. He's done. I think it's going to be a coming out party. It's going to be a pretty high scoring affair. But I mean, I'm going to want to say it now. 42-24, Pack.
Oh
wow!
Shit!
Wow! I'm going to write that down.
Write it down.
42-24. Packers.
I get an extra win if I'm right.
Don't go
Sure.
breaking my heart and shit, Jesus.
Yeah, I'll take off one of your losses and give you a win. It's got to be 42-24 though.
No, it's fine.
All right. All right. Next game is Lions at the Jets.
Wait, who'd you pick, Chris?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm picking the Bears at home. It is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I believe in the Bears' offense more than the Packers' offense right now. If they can get it together, hey, that's great. But I don't think it's going to happen this soon. The Bears' defense actually has looked good the past 2 weeks.
The Bears what?
Defense.
They have a defense? Oh, wow. No.
They looked decent last week, man. They really did.
Against the Jets?
They still look decent.
It's
They
the
still look
Jets.
decent.
Chris Ivory, if they would have just kept on handing them the ball, he would have single-handedly won the game for him because the Bears couldn't stop him.
Well, we'll see. I'll give the Bears the advantage at home.
Geno was the all-star on the Bears defense.
All right.
Ouch.
I'm just saying.
So Lions at the Jets. Perry, who do you have in that one?
The Lions are going to make Geno try to beat them. They're going to take away the run, and I don't think Geno can do it. I'm picking the Lions. I think Stafford will have his way with the Jets secondary.
That's what I'm hoping. So that's why for this week in fantasy, at least, I'm going with Detroit. Outside stadium, it's not going to affect them, and Stafford needs a statement game like he did in Week 1, and I think Jets are the perfect opportunity to do it. And the Lions' defensive line should keep the Jets in check, so that's why I'm going with Detroit. What about you, Eric?
Lions all the way, man. Starting to look like the best team in the NFC North.
It's early.
Yeah, it is. It's early.
It's way too early.
And I think it's going to be a statement game in Eagles at 49ers. So I'm picking the Eagles here. Number one offense is going to run all over San Francisco.
It's a tough pick.
Go ahead, Eric. Think it out, brother.
Well, I've been debating on this one, though, because the 49ers are just not looking like the team I thought they should be, but I'll actually go with a better college coach in Jim Harbaugh and go with the 49ers.
All right. Barry?
Better college coach, huh? And that was... Fuck Chip Kelly?
Who gave a fuck about Stanford before Jim Harbaugh turned them into beasts?
Well, when you have Andrew Luck, it's pretty easy to turn him into a beast. And it's not just him.
He recruited Andrew Luck.
Woo. He got Mama Luck's permission. Good job.
Mama Luck. Mama said. Mama said. Don't play no foosball.
Man, this is.
He's not an inner city kid. He got mamas.
I don't know. I'm a big Chip Kelly fan. I believe in what he did in college. I think he actually is the better college coach, in my opinion. Just want to put that out there. However, that doesn't really matter when you're in the NFL. And I think you're right, Chris. It is going to kind of be a statement game. I don't think they're going to run all over the 49ers, but I do think they're going to pass all over them. So I'm taking fly, Eagles fly.
All right, I was hoping to make some way against you there this week, Perry, but we picked the same games except for one. You picked the Packers and I picked the Bears. Everything else has been exactly the same.
Cheeseheads.
So, yeah.
I think I'm pretty much on the opposing end.
Yeah, except for the Lions. I mean, everything else has been the other way.
It's a long season, guys.
It is a long season, and I'm gonna probably lose count at some point in fucking time. But right now it's just 3 weeks. So.
Well, you're a computer programmer, so that's naturally bound to happen.
Probably so, but it's not in a fucking program, so I gotta do this shit by hand.
I was just saying there's more than ones and zeros. Anyway.
Yeah, it very much is. Yes.
Sorry.
Flew right over my head. There's the joke.
Guys.
He went.
Look, there are 3 types of people on this earth: those that are good at math and those that aren't.
Fair enough.
All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and go on to this week's Perry's Point.
All right. This week, just want to take some time to talk about another side of the NFL and sports today. It isn't getting nearly attention it deserves. We all hear about all the bad boys and all the negatives in sports. They're dominating the headlines and drapes the league and other sports figures in a shadow that are almost impossible to get out of. What we don't hear enough is all the good things that the players in the NFL and other leagues have accomplished under the radar. It's a big problem with all media outlets as they grasp and cling to anything negative they can and bleed the damn thing dry before they will run it with any good news. I would much rather read about Cincinnati re-signing Devon Steele, who had to leave the team to be with his 4-year-old in stage 4 cancer, to the practice squad, just so he can get a paycheck and have her covered on health insurance, and gave him the opportunity to be as close to her as she went through this terrible disease. They also went a step further and donated all proceeds from the sales of Steele's jersey to pediatric research. Sean Payton had bought 100 jerseys himself, and in less than a week, Steele and the Bengals raised over $400,000. Kudos to the Cincinnati organization. Extremely classy move on their part, and my hat goes off to them. In an interview with Peter King, Steele said, "The Bengals have been so good to me. People I don't know have been so good to me. Fans have been good to me. The whole experience, I've just been stunned. It has helped so much. I can't believe that in this sport that has no so-called heart, it is really so full of heart." That's the truth. Football is full of heart. I want to hear the good stories, the ones that remind me of why I love sports, not the ones that make me second guess it. Another incident involved Orioles slugger Chris Davis. Davis, who was recently suspended for 25 games for testing positive for Adderall, which he had a prescription for last year. Apparently he just didn't have one this year. Last time I checked, Adderall won't help you hit the ball over the fence. Anyway, just a few days into his suspension, he was a first responder in a horrific traffic accident on Interstate 295 in Baltimore. There was people bleeding, gas leaking all over the place, and a man was pinned underneath the heavy truck. Chris immediately, without thought, went to help overturn the truck to free the man. Davis, who didn't have anything to gain in this moment, only risking injury and even his life to save someone he didn't know, still will he be remembered this year for his suspension. This shows the person's true character, not a positive test for amphetamines. Todd Frazier and the Reds welcomed lifelong Reds fans with Down syndrome to be their bat boy, and Frazier hitting a home run per his request, and the bear hug that ensued afterwards, another great moment. Matt Kent learned of a Dodgers fan that was fighting a terrible disease was in the stands in San Francisco. This was right after some deaths that occurred from fans between these two rivals. He gave him an autographed baseball and then proceeded to take off his hat and give it to him, and then his jersey, and even his shoes. 7-year-old cancer patient Jack Hoffman got to do something he will never forget. In front of 60,000 fans at the Nebraska spring game, he got to come on the field and score a 69-yard touchdown run. It's a moment that this kid will forever remember. And here's one of my favorite stories. Tony Romo back in 2008, who played the Browns in Cleveland. I don't remember the game, honestly, outside of the hard hit on his chin he took from Willie McGinnis. That hard hit plated Tony 13 stitches. Anyways, around midnight in Dallas, not exactly the safest place on earth, an older couple had a blowout. They made it to the parking lot on the side of the road and tried to get it patched and working. They were having problems with the air compressor and nothing was working. By this time, hundreds if not thousands of cars had passed by. And then here comes Romo. He helped the gentleman get it get it to a point where they could make it home. The wife, of course, was ecstatic and couldn't believe she just met the kid. And the husband looked at his banged up and weirdly bandaged chin and simply told him, "Don't tell me the outcome of the game, kid. I'm TiVoing it." Romo. A true fan right there. Romo, who was just beaten up, stitched up, and flew back from Cleveland to Dallas and making his own way home, was the only one that stopped and helped these people out. The last person I want to talk about here is John Cena. Say what you want about his wrestling style or character, doesn't really matter. What matters is all his charitable work that typically goes unnoticed. Cena, who's been the face of the WWE for a decade now, has granted more wishes than anyone else in history. There are only 6 people who have granted more than 200. No one has hit 300. Cena just granted his 400th back in February. Pro wrestlers have a schedule like no other. Constant traveling, constant matches, and they all take their toll. Despite all of it, and how much of your life has to be dedicated to it, Cena still finds time to help out so many people and truly make a difference in their lives. The point I want to make is that there's so many great moments and great people in the world of sports. Even in today's social media bonanza and everyone under a microscope, anything and everything will come out. There's still some very special people among us. These are just a few of the several moments and individuals that should be talked about more, that should be thrown onto the front page of papers, not as a filler towards the end. These acts should be the highlights, not all the thugs and all the negativity currently swirling around. I hope this helps people remember that even though demons and devils make the news and get all the attention today, there are still angels among us.
All right, man. I like
Very
it.
well
Yeah,
said.
that Jack clip of him running that touchdown in Nebraska, man, that makes me cry every single time.
Oh, yeah.
They played it on Sports Center. Oh, there's something else. Yeah, and also, guys like, Andre Johnson taking kids to, Toys R Us and
Absolutely.
giving them, 90 seconds or something like that?
It's
to grab
80 seconds.
Whatever they wanted.
Yeah, it's 80 seconds is his jersey number. You get 80 seconds to go
Ah,
out there
that's right.
and get whatever you want off the shelves. And I mean, he does it every single year, and he hardly ever gets mentioned.
I think I saw it once
Mhm.
on like a Christmas edition of Sports Center. That was about it.
Yeah, the only reason it was because he actually posed with a picture of the Toys R Us receipt.
Of the receipt, right?
yeah,
And it was tweeted out.
Yeah, that was the only reason that it made any attention. If it wasn't for that, we probably still wouldn't be known about it. But I mean, the guy does it each and every year.
Good. All right. So now on to this week's version of Chris's quizzes.
Version.
A version. Well, it pretty much is going to be the same kind of stuff, but I'm going to make sure that everyone knows how many picks or how many, how many rounds we're going and how many answers are on the board.
How drunk are you tonight, Eric?
No more drunk than usual.
Uh-oh.
Oh, shit. This is going to last 30 fucking minutes. Ugh.
All right, here we go. All right, your category for tonight is the 2013 season. So last season, running backs in the NFL with the most receiving yards.
Dakota Wilson. Kidding.
Man, I was getting my damn list out. All right, hold on. All right, so we have the top 8 backs are on the board, and we are going 6 rounds. So, Eric, 6 rounds.
Fair enough.
So, how many rounds?
I think it's 6, Chris.
I think that's right. All right. Okay. So it doesn't matter how many misses you have. Again, we're the tiebreaker would be the number 1 guess. So Eric, since you're down 0-5, go ahead and take first shot.
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush, top 8. Let's see what you got here. Reggie Bush, first guess.
Awesome.
Reggie Bush is not in the top 8. All right, Perry.
Jamal Charles.
Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles is number 1 on the list.
This is like the same rhythm that we had every time.
It really is. All right. Let's see. He had 70 receptions with 693 yards and 7 touchdowns.
This is most receptions, right?
No, most
receiving yards.
Most receiving yards.
Okay. Well, it's the same thing. LaShawn McCoy.
LaShawn McCoy. Stat board. LaShawn McCoy is number 7 on the list with 52 receptions, 540 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Matt Forte.
Perry. Matt Forte. Matt Forte is number 4. He had 75 receptions, 592 yards, and 3 touchdowns. All right, so 2-1. Perry after 2 rounds. Eric?
Darren Sproles.
Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles is number 3 on the list. 71 receptions, 604 yards with 2 touchdowns last season. All right, tied up 2-2, Perry.
Took my answer. Giovanni Bernard.
Giovanni Bernard. Giovanni Bernard is number 8. 56 receptions, 514 yards with 3 touchdowns. All right, there are 3 guesses left, Eric. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. 3 more rounds to go. 3 answers left on the board.
I'll go with AP.
AP. AP's not on the list.
Alfred Morris.
Alfred Morris. Stat board. Alfred Morris is not in the top 8. Two guesses left.
Oh, Jesus. I'll go with Bill from the Lions.
Was it Bell from the line? I think it's Joy K.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name.
That's number 6 on the list. He has 53 receptions, 547 yards, 0 touchdowns. All right, Perry, if you get this one, you will win. 2 answers left, number 2 and number 5.
No Sean.
No Sean. No Sean Marino. That's it, buddy.
Oh!
Sean Marino is number 5 on the list.
Knockout punch.
60 receptions, 548 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Who the hell is number 2?
Eric, do you have a guess for number 2?
Fuck it. I mean, Andre Ellington. That ain't it.
No, it ain't it.
Marshawn.
All right, want me to tell you?
Sure.
No, Ahmad Bradshaw.
He didn't play last year.
All right. I know. I throw something out there.
Eddie
All right,
Lacy.
so stat board, show us number 2. Number 2 is Danny Woodhead.
That's not a goddamn running back.
76
God.
receptions, 605 yards with 6 touchdowns on the Chargers.
Wow.
It's just like how Jimmy Graham's a tight end. Bullshit. He's a wide receiver.
Well, his position right now is listed as running back, just like Jimmy's is listed as tight end, and it'll probably be held up in a court. So
Your position is taking it hard and deep while on all fours. So,
all right, Eric. So bring in our closing top 5 for the week.
yay, top 5. No, I'm kidding. All right. We got now this week the top 5 coaches of all time, which I think is very fitting for how the NFL's gone and how, well, hell, even college football is gone. Bunch of upsets and everything, and a lot of times it's based on offensive line, quarterback, blah, 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 but coaches get the credit. They really should. It's their names in the paper, right? So.
With the quarterback, yep.
Maybe so. All right. So, Chris, I'll bring it back to you. Number 5.
Number 5, I put Bill Belichick as number 5. He's coached the Patriots to 5 AFC championships and 3 Super Bowls victories. He also coached the Patriots to the first ever 16-0 regular season in 2007. And he's got a 175-97 regular season record, as well as a fairly impressive 17-7 playoff record during his career.
Word? Can't argue with Belichick. Perry, number 5.
Chip Kelly. Joke.
I was literally just going to stop it, and it was going to be me and Chris talking the rest of the time.
All right. Number 5.
The guy that never won the national championship is yet to have a winning season. Anyway, all right.
My number 5 is Nick Saban. I think he's basically like if you would, the Belichick of college football. He has I don't have an exact win-loss record, but I know he has 4 national championships with 2 different schools. That in itself, especially how much shit the BCS is actually saying something. The guy just wins. He's a football genius, and he does it with talent across the board. He's never really had a great quarterback. We've all touched on the running backs he has. I mean, he's a recruiter. He gets the job done. He brings in the talent necessary, and he'll go down as one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time when it's all said and done.
Coaches, not quarterbacks. Yeah, we got you. Sorry, I just had to call you out on that.
Where'd you get quarterbacks from?
Perry never remembers what he says. It's fine, though. Our listening audience does. Anyway.
Did I say quarterback, Chris?
Yeah, you did. It's all good, brother.
One of the greatest.
Now, look, say Bear's impossible to argue with. Say Bear's so good. No, I'll give him credit because, look, the reason LSU's even talked about right now is because of the recruiting he fucking did, and then Les Miles took over, and it was like, oh, please keep coming to my school because of, all this Nick Saban shit. Anyway.
Because all this Nick Saban shit.
All right, my number 5, I went deep on this, probably a little deeper than I should, but I went with Bud She never says. All right, Bud Wilkinson is my number 5, and not a well-known coach, but he was a head coach of Oklahoma. Went 145 and 29 and 4.
It's
but
terrible.
he invented the 3-4. Back in that day, everyone was running a 5-man front, and he actually invented the 3-4. Highly, highly fucking impressive. He also came up with the concept of breaking down practice schedules by the minute. So what we hear about Saban and all these, control conscious coaches, he invented back in the day with Oklahoma, back in the 1940s. So Bud Wilkinson's my number 5. Chris, number 4.
Number 4, I stuck with the NFL and went with Coach Don Shula. He has the most regular season wins in NFL history with a record of 328 wins and 156 losses and 6 ties. And he went not quite as impressive, but 19-17 in the playoffs. He has a 4-time NFL Coach of the Year and was named to the 1970s NFL All-Decade Team. But he won 14 divisional titles, 5 AFC titles, and 1 NFL championship before they even had the Super Bowl, and then coached in 6 Super Bowls and won 2 of those. But what mostly he's remembered for is coaching the Dolphins to the perfect 17-0 season, only team to ever go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. Don Shula, most regular season wins in NFL history, number 4.
Got to give the guy props. And when you say 19-17 in the playoffs, it doesn't sound impressive until you realize if you lose 17 times in the playoffs, that means you went there at least 17 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
so
he's basically
Perry,
basically the Peyton Manning of coaches.
But yeah, essentially so.
All right. My number 4 is Bill Belichick. 201 wins, 106 losses record. My number for the playoffs is a little bit different than you had, Chris. 19-9 is in the playoffs. I don't know if you took into consideration his Cleveland record when he took a terrible Browns team to the playoffs.
It's not fair.
But he's he's done so much with so little throughout the years. I mean, Brady was an unknown before we threw him in there. Never had a great receiving corps outside a couple years from Randy Moss. But I mean, he knows how to judge talent and put him into the system to succeed. He turned around a franchise, and he's honestly one of the greatest football minds of our generation. He might even crack going up to the top 3 by the time his tenure's done.
I believe it completely, man. Belichick's a beast. All right, my number 4 is Tom Landry. And it's for a couple of reasons, but again, I'm going to say on the defensive side, he was the one that brought the 4-3 to the NFL. And again, I'm going deep on this, but back in the day, it was all a 5-3, 7-2, 7 diamond is what they called it. What Landry did was his coach came up with a 6-1-4. But the interesting thing about this defense was, if you do the math, 6-1-4, the 6, he had 2 outside defensive ends that could drop back into pass coverage, which is essentially nothing more than a 4-3. 4-3-4. So Tom Landry, while playing defensive back, taught everyone he played with this defense, and then when he became a coach, refined it to the 4-3, and that is what has been the most successful defense ever run, period, is the 4-3. So, Tom Landry, he gets my props on number 4. All right, Chris, number 3.
All right, number 3 is my last NFL pick, and I got to go with Vince Lombardi. He never had a losing season, but he only coached for 11 years, which is kind of a short tenure by NFL standards, at least in those days. He had a 96-34-6 record, but he went 9-1 in the playoffs. He captured the 1959 AP NFL Coach of the Year and coached the Packers to 5 NFL championships, and then when the Super Bowl started, 2 Super Bowl championships. And if the Super Bowl trophy bears your fucking name, you deserve to be on this list. So, number 3, Vince Lombardi.
Fair enough. All right, Perry.
I can't argue with that. My number 3, I actually got Joe Pa as my number 3. Fortunately, the whole sex scandal thing, if you overlook that and just look at him as a coach, he's had 5 undefeated seasons, 3 of which he didn't even play for a national championship, but he does have 2 of them. 18 bowl victories. I think a bowl victory in like 4 different decades or some shit like that. But I mean, you think of Penn State, you think of Joe Pa, and the amount of the kids that he's coached, and he's done it for so long. He lived and breathed football. That's the only thing he lived and he cared about, and that's my number 3.
Now, I hate the way that shit ended, and I think it ended because that he basically had. No, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
I'll leave that be. I'll leave that be, man. Joe Pa was it. It's a great call, great pick. My number 3 is Bill Walsh, and again, I'm going with coaches that invented something, and he invented the West Coast offense. And I mean, if you know the 49ers in the 80s, you can thank Bill Walsh for that. I mean, he basically turned a league that was, 5 yards to carry and throw it deep into, why not let's just pass it 5 yards? Do quick passes, short reads, 3-step drop was invented by him. I mean, the slant route, like all these things that seem so obvious to us nowadays, were never even thought of at that point. Bill Walsh was a fucking genius. And while he may not have had the record to show for it, what he did for the league and what he has done for football is amazing. So Bill Walsh is my number 3.
Good pick,
Chris, number 2, man.
All right, number 2, I have Joe Paterno. Number 2, I need a little bit higher. The face of college football. 60 years as a coach, or more than 60 years as a coach at Penn State. I don't really have a whole lot more to add than what Perry said, but won more games than any coach in Division 1A or FBS history, and more bowl victories than any other coach. Final record of 409 wins. 409 wins. 136 losses and 3 ties. Multiple-time Coach of the Year. He is the epitome of classic college coaches. And like we said, it is sad the way all that ended, but he had one hell of a career, one hell of a coach that meant a lot to so many people. He is my number 2.
For sure, man. All right, Perry.
Number 2, we kind of flip-flopped these around, Chris. Got Lombardi as number 2. Reason being, I mean, he never had a losing year. I mean, 96, 34, 6 records, 73.8% win percentage, 9-1 in the postseason. I mean, he got it done when it counted. The trophy's named after him and shit. The NFL being the powerhouse sport that it is nowadays, I mean, wouldn't be around without Lombardi name on the trophy. I mean, it's there for a reason. And I don't think there's another coach that has so many quotes out there that you use for inspirational speeches or whatnot. But I mean, good gosh, you don't have to dig hard to find one.
You're exactly right, man. The man was a genius of coaching, and I couldn't agree more, which is why he's my number 2. And y'all give him the stats, so I'll give a quote. It's my favorite one. It's sitting on my father's wall after he got out of coaching after 13 years, and this is what they gave him. I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, the greatest fulfillment of all that he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the field of battle, victorious. Just a fucking great quote. And look him up, people. If you've never seen them, I mean, there's fucking 50 that will just bring a tear to your eye and make you happy just reading them. Man was a genius.
He's a motivator.
He knew how to get to players. He may not have been the best X's and O's coach. He knew how to get to the heart of who somebody was and make them play. That 110%, I don't believe in that bullshit. I really don't. But making them play to their full potential, that man knew how to make them happen. So, all right, Chris. Number one, dude.
Man, this is a very elite list, man.
It fucking better be.
Yeah. But number one, when you think about coaches and you think about the legacy that coaches leave, the main one that came to my mind was Paul Bear Bryant. Of course, he's the face of the Alabama Crimson Tide football program. In 1958, he was named head coach of Alabama, and he coached the Tide until 1982. And during his career, he had a 79% winning percentage at 323 and 85. He won one SWC championship, and then after the SEC was officially established, he won 14 SEC championships and 6 national titles. 3-time AFCA Coach of the Year and a 12-time SEC Coach of the Year, and in the Hall of Fame in 1986. And especially when you are a fan of the SEC, the main coach that comes to your head when you think about greatest coaches of all time is Bear Bryant. Number one.
Yeah, I'm just shocked that it took him 4 years to put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Perry, what's your number one, man?
Number one, Mr. Dan Mullen.
Not fucking yet.
He's got about 40 years.
He's on his way. Damn it.
Gotta bring that victories against ranked opponents up a little bit.
Oh, he's getting there. He's getting there.
Hey, he got there. He got 3 now.
How about no? I mean, it's the same. I couldn't think of anybody else that should be number one. Bear Bryant. He pretty much named all the stats. He pretty much the first coach that comes to mind that actually truly had a dynasty on his hands. And to do it for so long the way he did, and and it wasn't all just talent. It was the motivation he put behind it all. And everybody that played for him and talks about him always talks about how much life coaching that he did. It was molding these kids into men, and he did it better than any other coach of all time. That's why he's number one.
And that's hard to argue with as well. I mean, it sounds like some Lombardi shit. You created these boys and turned them into men. I created, but turn these boys into men. My number one is one I figured y'all would leave off because he is long forgotten, and to me it's a sad thing. But
Papa Bear?
George Papa Bear Hallis, man.
There you go.
He was 25 when he started coaching the Decatur Staleys, which within a few years will be the Chicago Bears. He didn't stop coaching until he was 72 years old in 1967. His win-loss record was 318 to 148, but he won 6 championships, and he is the reason we call them the Bears. The Bears and the Packers were the two true first legitimate, franchises, and the only thing that separates Lombardi from Papa Bear is the Super Bowls, because he retired before Super Bowls became in existence.
Mm-hmm.
You throw that shit to 10 years before, we got a little different story to tell, but he was a great coach until the very end. So I gave him my props, That's what I got, man. Back to you, Chris.
All right, man. I like this top 5. I was a little apprehensive about it at first, but I think this is one of the best ones we've had in a little while. Very upbeat.
Like me and you pretty much had the same list. Eric went the creative route,
Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I think. Never mind.
It'd be boring if everybody had the same ones.
I think football, though, football is such a fucking dynamic and reactive sport. If you look at it from decade to decade, what won has been different every decade. When you look at, and this is not to down any other sport, but when you look at baseball or basketball or soccer or any of the sports that have lived for the last 80 years, they've all been won basically from the same thing, and football is an ever-changing sport. And that's why I brought up the defenses to start with and the offense in the middle. It's always reactive. In another 10 years, it's going to be a different league, and that's why I think it's the most popular right now.
Yeah, it's very responsive and reactive to public opinion and, what people want to see. Do they want to see hard-nosed defenses with low-scoring games right now? No. They want action, action, action. They want points on the scoreboard. They want touchdown celebrations. And that's what you're getting, whether it's for the good of the game or not.
Along with pieces of cloth that's thrown on the sidelines.
No doubt. There's problems, but I guarantee you, Perry, your problems with it, and all that bullshit with the penalties and everything, the thing I love about the NFL, especially in football, because it's all just a trickle-down effect, that shit won't last, dude. All of a sudden, football games lasting longer than baseball games, there'll be an outcry, and the penalties will cease. All of a sudden, it'll be like, no, it's fine, then being a little bit more brutal. It'll be fine, not calling every penalty. Shit'll change, man. It will. I believe it. If it doesn't, the sport will die.
I think it's going to end up. Yeah, I think it's going to end up being more reactive to, like they kind of have now with the review rules. Where they have a group of officials at another location that communicate what should and shouldn't be done. The referees that are on the field, they'll be gone within 10 years. I think. It'll all be automatic and judged by a group of people that can see every angle of every play and go by straight down the rule book and have every replay in front of their face.
So that'd be even worse because however many flags is there's even that many more penalties that they're not calling. I mean,
exactly.
Penalties happen on every single play. So I mean, for them to sit there and and looking at all this stuff. Replaying every single play from every single camera angle is only going to slow it down worse.
Yeah.
I can't agree more. And actually, I meant to bring this up earlier, but Dylan Day, the center for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, is now suspended for the next game of play.
Are you fucking crazy?
Because of two, stomps, supposedly. And I saw one of them live. I didn't catch the second one. The first one, he was jumping and landed into an LSU player. But the point is, though, neither of those plays were called as flags during the game. No personal foul penalty, no nothing. But yet, we get to review it after the fact, and then we get to suspend him for a game for something that the refs didn't catch. So we're already almost there, Chris. At least reactively.
Yeah.
So
it's coming along. It's going to end up being a robotic league, by the time we're old and gray. Maybe old, I'm already gray, but
Well, Perry's not gray because he's bald as fuck, but that's
Look who's talking there. Your head's looking pretty
bald as fuck too, dude.
You're looking pretty shiny there yourself.
Dude, I like to shine, man. Look, it's a solar panel for your sex machine, baby.
Yeah, I'm thinning a good bit up top too, and I went and got my hair cut today, and I kind of got a little sad when she was cutting the top of my hair, and as she got towards the top of my head, there was less and less hair that was coming in between her fingers for her to cut. And by the time she was done, there was like nothing there. But I guess she was trying to make me feel better. It was like snip, snip, snip. There was nothing there.
It gets pretty depressing.
Sports Cuts is so popular because they just turn you to a TV and let you watch that while they just destroy what is left of your little bitty lion mane. It is now like a kitten mane that you used to call hair.
Oh, man. So, alright. So I guess that's going to do it for this week. What a fucking crazy note to leave it on.
Why not?
So yeah, anybody that had made it through this 2-hour show here, made it this far, and you like us to this much, give us a little bit of encouragement, or tell us why you want something to change, or give us suggestions. What topics do you want to hear? Is there a top 5 that you want us to cover? Do you have any drink recommendations that we could try during the show? Whatever the fuck you want to send, or you want to tell Perry how much you like or dislike his point, feel free. Please send us feedback at leftfieldsportslounge@gmail.com. We have plenty of ways that you can find us. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter at LF Sports Lounge. We're on Stitcher Radio. We're on iTunes. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. We're all over the fucking place. So, reach out to us. I mean, we're open to suggestions. We really want to hear from you. So until next week, I'm Chris Lewis, and as always, I'm joined by Perry Lewis and Eric Tolbert, and we will see you at the lounge next week.